pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, then, we have public appearance. This is public's opportunity to speak on any subject. With that, if you are from the public, we just wish that you hold your comments to no more 3 minutes. Share your name, your address, your municipality, and I'll be quiet and see if anybody from the public would like to speak. All right, then we'll move on. Next, then, is to discuss and consider our meeting minutes from our Plan Commission meeting held on June 12th. Any questions, comments, edits in regards to meeting minutes as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
We have a motion second then. Any other discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Next then, we have a discussion in regards to from the public for a potential zoning amendment related to making and keeping chickens a permitted accessory use in a planned industrial district. Aaron, I think you have this one.
Yeah, so probably recall back in 2021, we had some residents come forward wanting to keep chickens at their homes. We made the zoning amendment to allow that. At that time, we now have the operator of the Kids Safari Daycare coming forward. She was asking if they were able to keep them at their place for the kids to help raise. So currently it's not allowed because it's only residential. So we're just bringing it forward to see if there's any interest on your part to look into making that change to allow it on a planned industrial property. I guess I don't have a real strong opinion either way. I don't think it would hurt anything to allow that. Some of the things to consider would be, is it just anywhere in the planned industrial or specifically to, a daycare type use like this? And then their request was looking at a higher number of chickens than what we currently allowed and potentially ducks, which that's, a whole other set of issues we can look into. But I guess before we go that far into it, I just wanted to get the direction from you guys whether to do it or not.
Rick, any slippery slope with doing this, as far as we allow industrial areas and then suddenly we have chicken farms in the industry. I'm just playing a little devil's advocate here a little bit.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's a discretionary decision on what you allow in each district. I can see people making the argument that if you allow it in residential and industrial, well, why not allow it in commercial or the other types of business like districts? But is there a legal requirement to allow it in every district? I don't think so, just because you allow it in some. I think it's a policy decision and understanding that you could potentially get other requests like this in the future, but I don't think it would be binding on you by any means to say you have to approve this for every other district.
Questions, comments from commission members?
I guess since that's a good point. Since you said discretion, and I know we don't like to do variance is the wrong word, but is this a good opportunity? Is this a good case where we should treat it case by case and approve case by case and not codify it? Just because it gives that additional layer of control, that way it's not broad across all businesses. All of a sudden everyone's getting the chickies. We did it for the residentials for purpose. It is broad, but in the commercial aspect, that mechanism does give us that bit of a control. And I appreciate the work we've been doing in the past to try and not do that stuff. We definitely want to stick to the ordinances, but maybe this is a case that fits. Thanks.
So it could be something you do. You would be creating sort of like a special zoning permit, I guess, which in that case you would want to have sort of specific standards about when you would issue it. So I think it would just involve being more specific about under what conditions you would allow it. Otherwise, there's Aaron's suggestion of just saying it could be allowed in a planned industrial district as long as it's under a specific type of primary use. So like with a daycare use, you could allow it, but for other types of uses, it's not allowed. So you can be a little bit more specific about when you're actually allowing it as an accessory use.
Yeah, you could define it around educational purposes. You just have to define what that is. Hopefully there's
Right.
a standard for education versus a brewery or something. And they're here for
Right.
some random, yeah. So you can stretch it too, so we need definition. Yeah, thanks.
I guess this is, thinking about residential, there's like people home all the time, it's kind of like a pet, you'd get a pet sitter. Is there any additional like animal protections since it's a business and people aren't there all of the time? Or is that not really something that we need to get in the weeds on?
That is a good point. That, presumably daycare, let's just say, operates from like 8 to 5 or something. So there's nobody really on the premises after that. So I think it's a good policy consideration. So I guess using my own personal example, my son's daycare has chickens. It's in Madison, but like the daycare operator would like take them home afterwards, so they weren't like on the premises the whole time. So I think that's a valid consideration to think about. Well, what are we going to do with the chickens after hours? I mean, you don't have a rooster to worry about, I guess, but if there are issues with the animals, like there's no one there, presumably from 5 to 8 the next morning.
There's also no one there on weekends?
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what they're asking for then. So I mean, if they brought the chickie in, or even any animal, just for the couple hours, then left, there's nothing for us to do for that. Madison, right? So like,
Mhm.
they're bringing it in, it's their home pet, they brought in their home pet, their home dog, their home chicken, and then they took it home with them. They could do that, and then there's no conversation with the village, which is fine, right?
Yeah, I don't know if that would require like I don't think it would require any permit, but that's very temporary in nature.
Which is what you're explaining in
Yeah.
Madison.
Yeah.
It's what it is. I mean, so they're probably not skirting it.
Yeah.
They're not leveraging the homesteading of like, hey, we're gonna raise this chicken, we're gonna bring it in, we're gonna have some activities, and it's gonna go away. It's just like farm
Mhm.
pet a truck day or whatever. The truck shows up. It's not an industrial zone. It's just truck showed up. We got to pet the truck, and the truck left. So
Mhm.
it's nothing. I think we need to find out more what their intent is. Keep it on property for the duration, or is it float in and out?
And that might be something where a permit would make sense because you can put conditions on it, like they can't be there over the weekend or something like that, where to your point before, there's a little bit more like control over it, because there are obviously other factors that you have to consider.
Or even like a contact person, if it's 50 below zero, are they, I don't know, is their coop warm? And I guess we don't really worry about that with residential, so maybe we shouldn't have to worry about it with business, but it, like the whole structure of when people are there is just different.
How many chickens, you said they were asking for more than the residential limit? How many are we talking?
Yeah, I believe it was 8, and it's currently a maximum of 4. And then they mentioned 4 or 5 ducks. I don't know if that's in lieu of chickens or in addition to chickens. So not a huge number more, but more. I guess they do also have a little more space to spread them out too than a typical residence, so.
I think I'd probably just stick with the chickens. I know ducks, just from experience, get big fast. I guess I don't see a big issue. I guess I'd talk to someone that raises chickens, and I'm sure there's chickens on farms for years that people go away for the weekend and they're still alive when they come back on Sunday night or Monday morning. So, and I wouldn't want to put a condition that you're taking chickens home and probably going to cause more harm transporting them than you are leaving them where they're at, so.
So what's the ask for us here? Direction to staff to craft ordinance
Yeah.
changes,
Is
or?
this just a flat no, or do we want to get more information from them, or do we want to start drafting something up?
Be nice to have it as some sort of permit so we can have some sort of control.
I'd also like to know what they're doing with them on the weekends. Are they gonna have a chicken cam? I mean, just so they know that they're okay, I mean.
Do your kids enjoy the chickens?
Yeah, he loves it.
My experience with chickens are pretty self-sufficient, that you could leave them over the weekend as long as they have food and water. They're gonna be there on Monday when you get back. Not much different than a cat. You leave a cat for the weekend. I'm sure people do that. They're not dead on Monday when you come home, you know?
Thanks, Troy. Aaron, do you have enough direction? I think there's,
I think so. Sounds like a definite maybe, and we'll
Yep.
keep working on it.
I think we need more information before we make any comment on ducks. So,
yeah. All right, anything else on this one? All right, next then, we have a concept presentation from Lakewood Development regarding the potential residential project and parcels. You can all see them there. There's a whole list. I won't read all them off, but several. And again, this is for commission member feedback only, no action for taken at this meeting. Representatives from Lakewood are here, so if you gentlemen would like to come up. We have Jacob, Tom, and Dave. And just ask that you press the little thing that looks like a person talking so that the people on Zoom can hear you when you do speak. So it should be a little red button down once you push it. Yep, you got it.
Great. Well, thanks for the time. Really appreciate it. And we've been having conversations with the Plan Commission, for quite some time now. So excited to come forth here with a concept plan. And so, the subject property, is over on Westridge Road here, pictured on the presentation. Around 150 acres. Our proposal is 55 plus age restricted, single family detached and attached, traditional build to sell community that, is comes with, quality amenities, clubhouse, pickleball courts, fitness room, et cetera, but providing something, different to the community that increases the propensity for folks here in Cottage Grove that want to stay in the community, but currently don't have a downsizing option. I think there's some folks who are okay going to an apartment building or a 55 plus apartment building, but I think a lot of people want their own four walls, their own yard, and more of a community feel. And so, this community, we think will also just give opportunity for folks not only to stay, but it'll free up housing inventory just in the community at large for, young families and so forth as, people who are downsizing in the community to move into this one. Additionally, just provides, a recreational experience as well that'll alleviate some of the usage off of the pickleball courts at the park here, things like that. That's mainly, the overview. And you got anything to add there?
Yeah, no, I think I think that covers it, and we can kind of, jump into how this fits into the comprehensive plan and then dig into the concept plan drawing that was shared that kind of covers some of the more specificities and kind of specifics of the actual project and amenity spaces and park spaces that it facilitates. So just kind of quickly, as it relates to the broader relationship within the village, this kind of zoning map shows in the orange the location for the subject property and development, which is planned for residential, identified for both single-family detached and attached housing. And just kind of jumping over to the concept plan, there's an amenity center that's populated in purple, close to 3 acres and in the middle of the drawing, and kind of detention throughout, and parks and open amenity spaces interspersed throughout, most of which will be private. And we had some conversations with the parks group a couple weeks ago. And then there's a large park area kind of on the far west side, as you can see, just north of Ridge Road, that will be dedicated to the public, with a regional trail system kind of throughout the community, that will actually run south of Ridge Road, right along that western kind of terminus of the property towards Drumlin Trail. And we can dig into the lift station that's being facilitated alongside this project just to the south that will serve the regional area. But do you have anything else out there?
Yeah, and just general profile of homes, the single family detached, somewhere square footage wise, kind of in the 1,400 to 1,900 square foot range. And the attached kind of in the 1,200 to 1,400 foot range. We had a demand study group who a third of all they do is the Madison area, and they've worked on communities like this as well. And so, we wanted the data to speak for itself. And, there's a clear, going through the study that we conducted, there's a, very clear demand for this type of product is, with the aging population here, as well as just no other kind of like options in the greater Madison area. We think this is something that will, do really well and serve the community with something that's, differentiated, that currently doesn't exist.
So that kind of covers the concept plan. Dave, I don't know if you have anything else to add as it relates to, anything, and we can field questions as they come up, but.
Yeah, my name's Dave Glusick with Veerbecker. We've started taking just a very high-level preliminary look at utilities that'll be needed to be extended to the site, and then stormwater management. But certainly, that work will be kind of coming forward as this project evolves. So, available to answer questions, but not a lot of specifics on that at this time.
So on the south side of Ridge Road, those would be normal, non-age restricted, single family?
No, those would be age restricted.
So the whole
Yeah.
project is age restricted? Okay.
Yeah. And, we, again, we kind of came at this with an objective view, and that's just where, our demand study group, we even said, does it make sense to section off to some all age, but given what's already kind of going on in the area here, and elsewhere throughout the greater Madison area, and what's coming down the pipeline, this is the most underserved need, both in Cottage Grove and the greater Madison area.
I think one thing that helped, that quite a few years ago, there was an excellent plan for this property, and it was kind of squashed because of the road not being able to go through. And I think with the 55 and older, I think you're gonna see less traffic with that demographic than you would with a typical neighborhood demographic. Because until that road would go through, you are gonna put more traffic on Taylor Street. But I think this is a good solution, partial solution to that.
Yeah, so we actually, we were kind of privy of that context, and we have done some initial traffic work, and we found at most at peak, there'll be, 2 to 3 vehicles per minute, at most, at the stop, the 4-way there. So far, all signs, the studies that we've run, there shouldn't be any traffic issues. So that's something we've looked into, given the context, and per Aaron's direction there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, building on that,
I have a question. Oh, go ahead.
Troy. You can go ahead, Troy.
A couple things. I see part of the community is gated. So is it to presume that the neighborhood, the development is responsible for road maintenance, garbage pickup, all of that?
So I think, just to repeat the question, it sounded like you're asking if the development's responsible for like garbage pickup and road maintenance?
Correct, because I see it's gated, so I'm assuming that, you're gonna have a gate there that someone needs to have a pass or allow someone to come in there, similar to going into Bishop's Bay.
Yeah, so no, it's public roads, for certain things like the amenity center, the clubhouse, there'll be, a small HOA fee to cover those things, the parks, et cetera, that apply to those specific residents. For emergency vehicles, they'll obviously have passes. That's something we can work out the specifics on, when the gates are down or not, but, something from, focus groups and, looking at other comparables and what's worked well, the 55 plus community does appreciate some sort of security. That's kind of one of the other kind of selling points. Who's coming in, who's coming out. Meanwhile, not to say this isn't going to prohibit, grandkids, et cetera, but, this will be not only just a serving likely to the 55 plus, but presumably there's grandchildren that will come in the community as well. And, the roads are public, but anything that's specific to the residents, that'll be handled by the HOA.
So what's the purpose of the gates if it's all public?
Well, it's just security, also to the amenity center, et cetera. So, it kind of turns into a different type of product if anyone can go use the fitness room, children, et cetera, becomes more of a liability. And two, that's kind of the whole, value for being a resident there is that, for seniors and 55 plus, you can be in an area where it's, your demographic. Otherwise, there's really no differentiation or as much of an incentive for some folks to move into a community like this.
It's pretty
I guess
typical.
I really like the concept. I'm a bit concerned about the gating, though. It's either public or it's not. If it's a gate, I look at that as being private, and that should be taken care of by the development itself. Maintenance of roads, garbage pickup. If it's open, there's no need for a gate. I like the idea that it's 55 and plus. We're not putting more pressure on the school district. I'm just struggling with, public can get in there at certain hours or whatever. Well, that's not public then. That's private.
I think there's a lot of products like this in Florida that are gated, but they're still public streets and still have the garbage pickup and all that, so I don't see it as unusual.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, it's no different than any other citizen of the community. Everyone's served here by public utilities. We don't think treating these residents would be any different in that case. And this is very kind of common practice, throughout both the country, the Midwest, and to your point, in Florida and the Southeast. But the whole point is kind of we're bringing that experience here in the Midwest, so people can actually, stay in the community.
And these property owners will be paying property taxes, which cover the services, the public services provided, road maintenance, and our garbage pickup is an itemized item on your property taxes, so they'll be assessed accordingly for those services as well.
Yeah, and additional tax revenue and things of that nature that relate to things that these residents don't benefit from too as well, right? Like schools, as was mentioned. So, it'll be a serious tax revenue generator for certainly for the village.
And what you're showing here are just the two main roads. There's gonna be private drives or private roads within all the yellow spaces.
Yeah, this is just to show kind of the main thoroughfares.
So is it the intent of the HOA fee to cover snow removal and like lawn care?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the true kind of amenity experience with, maintaining the parks, maintaining landscaping, maintaining, infrastructure within
The-
otherwise.
Well, I am aware of some developments that have a similar setup, but then the HOA fee is also covering removal of the garbage from the street. It's pretty common practice now in new developments,
Yep.
so.
Understood.
I was really excited to see this product as watching, number of family members, the next older generation looking to downsize. They aren't interested in living in an apartment because all the age ranges and maybe not restricted apartment, and like the idea of a neighborhood and being able to walk places and utilize amenities. I think that this is a very desirable place for, just talking about the concept over 4th of July weekend after Parks Committee with my aunt and uncle. They're like, when is it gonna start? So I think that this is definitely an underserved community and will, as you said, free up housing inventory. And I think the ownership opportunity is great because that's a big risk when you have a fixed income to go into a rental and not know what your payments are gonna be going forward. So I'm excited about this opportunity.
Yeah, great.
Appreciate it.
So that's a nice segue heading into, overall, what's kind of the timeline, again, assuming you get all the approvals and everything else. I mean, what's kind of the general plan? You've got the market information, you got everything else. You got a concept here tonight, getting feedback on that.
Yeah, and I think it's an additional segue into kind of some of the lift station work that we've been speaking with, village members, plan commission members, in addition to Strand Associates. The plan is to start construction next year, and
Okay.
obviously we're working to get kind of a sense for timeline for when that lift station completion is done, because obviously, we need to make sure that there's access to, sufficient utilities before delivering any homes here. But that's kind of the general plan. So subject to kind of what the timeline looks like for the lift station project, and getting utility access, it would be, sometime kind of mid to late next year.
Okay. And then, have you guys kind of figured out price point for these? Are these your general market rate type of, I'm assuming?
Yeah, and there will be kind of a range, and I can, pull back up, just generally speaking on the product type side. And we can speak further as we start to refine the GDP and, more of the specifics on, development costs and, working with the village, obviously, on other ancillary aspects. But, the goal is to create something that's market rate and, have some affordable product and component with some of the attached housing as well. So,
Yeah, I mean, the attached product, in the 300s, the detached, starting in the 4s. But, again, trying to segment different areas, different price points,
Right.
is kind of the purpose of the attached product, to give some, kind of missing middle housing option for this age bracket.
And you're obviously, as you said before, the size is going to help you kind of dictate into those or get into those
Exactly.
price points.
Yeah.
yep.
Which actually is the trend these days, is the houses that are being built are getting smaller. So, because people can't afford what they used to afford. So, good. Other questions, comments from commission members?
So I can just touch a little bit more on the lift station. So the lift station they're talking about would be a village project that would serve not just this area, but really the whole east side of the village, all the way from here up to the airport potentially. But we always kind of needed some project to guarantee a revenue stream to kind of kick off that lift station project. So it's, this really serves to help that. Josh, looks like you want to jump in here.
No, I think that's good, Aaron, and we've already started working on that. So Utility Commission, as some of you know, have kind of approved that, where we've already gotten survey, geotechnical services are going on, wetland delineations are going on, we're starting design. So we're still on the time frame of where these guys want to be to kind of get service. Later this year, we should have stuff kind of wrapped up and completed. I think there's still and we have to continue to work together on, you know, sale of land and when we can get a parcel versus what you guys are buying and when you're gonna secure land rights and whatnot, but, you know, we're working with these guys. If for whatever reason, this doesn't come to fruition, we're still taking it per the utility commission to a spot where we're ready to go if someone else comes, and maybe even just installing some of the force main and utilities up through hydrate to get it through some of the private parcels that we're kind of dealing with right now too, to kind of get those hurdles out of the way. So regardless, we're gonna take it to kind of that final point, whether we build the full thing or build portions of it. It kind of all depends on, is this development ready to rock and roll? So I think on the utility side, we're in a good spot right now.
Where are you looking at putting it?
So I don't know if you can go back to that map. Yeah, go back to the overall one maybe. It's probably not, so it's south, yep, kind of south of that, just a little bit south of that arrow. There is I'm blanking on the street that kind of dead ends there.
Dentaria Drive.
Yeah, that would kind of come out past there and probably put a cul-de-sac bulb on that behind some of the residential.
Okay.
Beyond that, the kind of the wetland sneaks up in there and you can't really develop north and south there very well anyways. So it sounds like maybe the landowner will continue to farm. He's farming the kind of wetter portion there. But we'd have to have some negotiations and a purchase of land down there and then easements to get the stuff up to this. But it's kind of like Aaron said, this serves not only this, but a lot of the east side and far to the north on the east side. So we're setting up the rest of the development at the same time for the lift station, which is a great opportunity, and we're excited to kind of see something kind of come to fruition out here to kind of keep it moving forward.
So will the rest of Arrowwood go into that, or are you just gonna keep that small lift station for Arrowwood?
We're gonna also eliminate Arrowwood at the same time.
Okay,
We are gonna take that out
Okay.
as part of this. And that will also help with a little bit of base flow right away into the lift station, you know, so we can kind of size it to get some base flow into it and then kind of accept this at the same time. But that's a great question. Yep, we looked at taking that offline to kind of solve that problem so you don't have two lift stations pretty close there. Yeah, good question.
The guys kind of alluded to it, but that lift station would be pretty close to Glacial Drumlin, so part of that project could just be extending the trail up and then connecting into this neighborhood, and then, you know, hopefully in the future going from there up to BB and beyond, so. Really works to kind of complete that network out there too.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea to have the trail maybe follow the interceptor to some degree, and it's almost like an access to your interceptor that's outside of your road, but it kind of stays on that path to get to it. And I don't know if we've worked through all those details, but there's an opportunity for some of that. So, yeah.
Any other comments, questions? It's a nice missing middle that we have right now, so that's obviously your market research does tell you that, so which is why you're spending the time to get in front of us, so I'm certainly glad to see it as well. If there's nothing else, have a good night, guys.
great.
Keep
Thanks for
working.
the
Thanks very
time.
much, appreciate it.
Thanks, appreciate it.
All right, next then is a discussion on potential zoning amendments related to alcohol sales and vape shops. Aaron, you were working on this.
Yeah, so just kind of continuing our conversation from last time. We had some direction to kind of keep working on this. As far as the tobacco and vape shops, I think we'd recommend just creating that as a new land use and defining what that means. I think that Milwaukee precedent where it's 10% of floor area or 10% of the sales is a good measure to use. I've seen City of Superior just had a similar ordinance passed and they use those same numbers. And then the other part of it would be just defining where that would be allowed then. Again, City of Milwaukee used 1,000 feet from school, daycare, or park, and 500 feet from another business. I think, again, Superior used those same numbers. That seems to be the common trend. I know Heidi reached out to Dane County's Public Health, and we've had some conversations with them, and they've been helpful in sending some of that information over. And I think it would be worth reaching out to Monona and kind of seeing, you know, what kind of numbers they're using for these distances and things, just to kind of make sure we're consistent given we're kind of in the same area here. Something we didn't really talk about last time, but might want to consider folding into this ordinance would be, you see these stores popping up that have THC products, even though that's, not legal the way it is in a lot of places, Michigan or Illinois. There are some THC-related products that are allowed to be sold here, and there are stores kind of specializing in that. That could be something that kind of gets folded into this as well.
I'm seeing nodding heads, so yes, please.
The other thing I had on this, a lot of places, stores like this have like neon signs or like signage that appeals to youth perhaps, like market in a different way. Do we have any control over a sign that someone displays in their window and not like outside of their business, like how we have sign permits?
Signs are tricky. So you can regulate dimensions and locations of signs. You can't regulate content. So if you're saying, we're establishing a set of regulations specific to like these types of signs for tobacco shops, that's in an area we don't want to go. So we could maybe do like something along the lines of like for a tobacco shop saying no lights, just here are the dimensions of signs or things like that.
Yeah,
I'd be interested. Oh, go ahead. Aaron.
Yeah, that City of Superior ordinance had something about not putting signage in windows. And I don't know if that's kind of treading the line too, to say one business can have that and one kind can't, but.
Yeah, I would need to give that some more thought. It's an interesting way to do it. Because
I mean, Quick Trip has signs up, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's where you're right. I mean, when you walk in the door, it says cool or something, like, it's tough. But I see what you're, I mean, I'm envisioning, and it's probably the wrong vision, but like the New York street with all the neon lights, and it looks cool and something shiny, and it's not Cottage Grove's image anyway, right? So how do you?
Because we create different like
Yeah.
sign regulations for different like zoning districts. So I think we could potentially do different sign requirements for different types of uses, because it's not based on content. It's saying if it's this type of use, these are the sign restrictions. We're not saying what you can or can't put on the sign, I guess. So it's kind of a fine line to walk, but I think there might be a way to thread that.
Yeah, if you can find some way to incorporate that, I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
It's kind of an overlap between two always evolving fields of law. So, and the other part of this was the alcohol sales. I think what we were most concerned about was the potential for these kind of pop-up outdoor, parking lot type outlets. They're called unlimited transfer outlets under the state law. I think there's probably two ways I could see of dealing with that. One would be just creating a new temporary land use that's specifically tied to those, and then making them get a temporary use permit. I mean, the other concept would be that these aren't really that different than like a food truck or something, where you could kind of use that same transient merchant structure we already have. I don't know, Lisa, if you have thoughts on whether you think that would be appropriate or not.
Sure, I think that would be an easy way to control.
Yeah. So I'd kind of lean that way, at least to start, and if they prove to be a problem, then maybe we do something more. But
Anything else, Aaron?
I don't think so, unless there's any other questions or ideas related to some of this.
Future agenda items. Anything, Aaron, that we got to call out? I mean, obviously, with the topic we just discussed, there might be some updates there.
Yeah, some more of these. I'm not sure how fast the Lakewood guys are moving. They'll have to have a neighborhood meeting before they can submit anything, so that probably won't be next month. Yeah, I'm sure we'll have something else that comes up.
All right. Item 10.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second, and non-debatable. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Everybody have a good rest of their week.